Hello viewers, my name is Ronwise Gamgee, and welcome to Quick and Dirty Roleplaying. In this episode, I'd like to talk about the concept of no prep world building. Seems contradictory, doesn't it? No prep world building. The very idea of world building seems tantamount to prepping for your adventure or campaign world. That being said, as I've been using the Quick and Dirty RPG system for my gaming sessions, it's become more and more apparent that this doesn't have to be the case. Allow me to elaborate. So I recently ran a first gaming session for two of my gaming friends, Brian and Albert. This was Albert's first time using the Quick and Dirty RPG system, and I wanted to demonstrate how a group can come up with a workable, broad strokes campaign setting, create characters that match that setting, and come up with a quest starter to kick things off, with no prep whatsoever. The campaign setting that we came up with was something in the vein of Mage the Awakening, but set in Miami in the year 2072. Rising sea levels in South Florida have rendered the city of Miami into a no man's land, similar to the comic book series of Batman No Man's Land, and martial law was imposed. The general hope of the masses in Miami was for anything to change the status quo, but the struggle of eking a living to survive and the social inertia that results from that struggle got in the way. Both Albert and Brian created wizard mercenaries, but they offered their services to a different kind of clientele. Brian offered his services to well-paying corporations, whereas Albert did not. It actually wasn't very clear what kind of clientele Albert's character catered to. The quest starter actually had them on opposing sides. Brian's character's employer wanted him to vacate the people living in the residential area of Little Havana, whereas Albert's character lived in that area and was a pillar of the community there. At the end of the session, Brian had expressed that he was dissatisfied with how little attention we focused on the supernatural aspect of the setting, and stated that their characters could have easily been swapped out with non-wizard characters, and aside from using their magical abilities, the plot would have been the same. From one point of view, he's correct. However, this is just our first session in this setting, and the discussion continued towards the possible implications of the state of supernatural society in that setting, since many settings have a supernatural element to them. Since many settings with a supernatural element to them include a supernatural society. Some notable examples that come to mind are the wizarding world of Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts, Hellboy, and the Dresden Files. The societies where these settings take place, however, are relatively stable, since they emulate Earth of those specific 20th century time periods. Miami of 2072, however, is not only more speculative and in the future, it's a much more dire setting that's in this attention tug of war with the fact that magic exists within the setting as well. We spent well over an hour post-game talking about the implications of not only a partially sunken Miami and its effects on all facets of life, and not just on the implications of people with various expressions of magical capability. Albert was playing an astral/spirit mage, and Brian was playing a beast-changing mage, but the intersection between those two major facets as well. So when you think about it, this activity can be seen as an act of no-prep collaborative world building. I'd use the setting profile to collectively fill in the blanks with my group so that we can create a quick and dirty session and get the game going in a timely fashion. I incorporated the character's background and motivations into the quest starter to start the session in a way that mattered to the characters. The characters' pursuit of their goals and the consequences of their actions drove the narrative forward, and also drove me to generate content on the spot, clearing a narrative fog of war. And once the session concluded, we just talked about the ways in which a world like this could make sense, because even though it's a fictional setting, it has to make sense within the context of that setting in order for us to take it seriously. So two of the best parts about this whole process of no prep world building are: one, it's not contrived, and thus doesn't expend the same kind of energy as sitting down beforehand and thinking about these details by yourself does. And 2, it focuses on world building elements in a way that matters to the players at the table. If a particular aspect of the world doesn't get brought up by the players, that means its priority doesn't warrant curiosity, and you, generally, don't have to waste time and energy on something that won't come up. When it does come up in the future, that's when you and the group can elaborate further on those aspects and incorporate it into the setting. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Please feel free to leave a comment, as I'd like to know what your point of view is regarding this subject matter, or if you've had similar experiences to what I presented in this video. Also, if you're interested in checking out the Quick and Dirty RPG system, it's currently available on DriveThruRPG.com. Take care, folks, and play to find out what happens.